Om Sai Ram, Shri Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 39. Baba's knowledge of Sanskrit. His interpretation of a verse from Gita. Construction of the Samadhi Mandir. This chapter deals with Baba's interpretation of a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. As some people believed that Baba did not know Sanskrit, so Hemad Pant wrote another chapter, chapter 50, refuting that objection. As the chapter number 50 deals with the same subject matter, it is incorporated in this chapter. Preliminary. Blessed is Shirdi and blessed is Dwarkamai, where Sri Sai lived and moved until he took Mahasamadhi. Blessed are the people of Shirdi, whom he obliged and for whom he came such long distance. Shirdi was a small village first, but it attained great importance on account of his contact and became a tirth, holy place of pilgrimage. Equally blessed are the women folk of Shirdi. Blessed is their whole and undivided faith in him. They sang the glories of Baba while bathing, grinding, pounding corn, and doing other household work. Blessed is their love, for they sang sweet songs which calm and pacify the minds of the listeners and singers. Baba's interpretation. Nobody believed that Baba knew Sanskrit. One day he surprised all by giving a good interpretation of a verse from the Gita to Nana Sahib Chandaurkar. A brief account about this matter was written by Mr. B.V. Deo, retired Mamlatdar, and published in Marathi in Sri Sai Leela magazine. Short accounts of the same are also published in Sai Baba's Charters and Sayings and the Wondrous Saint Sai Baba, both by brother B.V. Narsimha Swami. Mr. B.V. Deo has also given an English version of this in his statement dated 27th September 1936. As Mr. Deo has got first-hand information about this subject from Nana Sahib himself, we give below his version. Nana Sahib Chandaurkar was a good student of Vedanta. He had read Gita with commentaries and prided himself on his knowledge of all that. He fancied that Baba knew nothing of all this or of Sanskrit. So Baba one day pricked the bubble. These were the days before crowds flocked to Baba, when Baba had solitary talks at the mosque with such devotees. Nana was sitting near Baba and massaging his legs and muttering something. Baba: Nana, what are you mumbling yourself? Nana: I am reciting a shloka, verse from Sanskrit. Baba: What shloka? Nana: From Bhagavad Gita. Baba: Utter it loudly. Nana then recited the verse, which is as follows: Tadvidhi pranipaten pariprashnen sevya uptekshyanti te jnanam jnanenastattva darshinah. Baba: Nana, do you understand it? Nana: Yes. Baba: If you do, then tell me. Nana: It means this: Sashtang Namaskar, that is prostration, questioning the Guru, serving him, learn what this Gyan is. Then those Gyanis that have attained the real knowledge of the Sadvastu, that is Brahma, will give you Updesh of Gyan. Baba: Nana, I do not want this sort of collected purport of the whole stanza. Give me each word, its grammatical force and meaning. Then Nana explained it word by word. Baba: Nana, is it enough to make prostration merely? Nana: I do not know any other meaning for the word pranipat than making prostration. Baba: What is pariprashna? Nana: Asking questions. Baba: What does prashn mean? Nana: The same, questioning. Baba: If pariprashna means the same as prashna, question, why did Vyas add the prefix pari? Was Vyas off his head? Nana: I do not know of any other meaning for the word pariprashna. Baba: Seva, what sort of seva is meant? Nana: Just what we are doing always? Baba, is it enough to render such service? Nana, I do not know what more is signified by the word seva. Baba, in the next line, Te Jnanam, can you read any other word in lieu of Jnanam? Nana, yes. Baba, what word? Nana, Ajnanam. Baba, taking that word instead of Gyan, is any meaning made out of the verse? Nana, no. Shankar Bhashya give no such construction. Baba, never mind if it does not. Is there any objection to using the word Ajnanam if it gives a better sense? Nana, I do not understand how to interpret by placing Ajnanam in it. Baba, why does Krishna refer Arjun to Tattvadarshis to do his prostration, interrogation, and service? Was not Krishna a Tattvadarshi, in fact, Gyan himself? Nana, yes, he was, but I do not make out why he referred Arjun to Gyanis. Baba, have you not understood this? Nana was humiliated. His pride was knocked on the head. Then Baba began to explain. It is not enough merely to prostrate before the Gyanis. We must make Sarvas Sharnagati, complete surrender to the Sadguru. Mere questioning is not enough. The question must not be made with any improper motive or attitude, or to trap the Guru and catch mistakes in the answer, or out of idle curiosity. It must be serious and with a view to achieve spiritual progress. Seva is not rendering service, retaining still the feeling that one is free to offer service. One must feel that he is not the master of the body, that the body is Guru's and exists merely to render service to him. If this is done, the Sadguru will show you what the Gyan is. Nana did not understand what is meant by saying that a Guru teaches a Gyan. Baba, how is Gyan Updesh, that is imparting of realization, to be effected? Destroying ignorance is Gyan. O Arjun, if dream and sleep disappear, you are yourself. It is like that. Is there anything different or independent in Gyan besides the destruction of ignorance? Expelling darkness means light. Destroying duality, Dvaita, means non duality, Advaita. Whenever we speak of destroying Dvaita, we speak of Advaita. Whenever we talk of destroying darkness, we talk of light. If we have to realize the Advaita state, the feeling of Dvaita in ourselves has to be removed. That is the realization of the Advaita state. Who can speak of Advaita while remaining in Dvaita? If one did, unless one gets into that state, how can one know it and realize it? Again, the Shishya or disciple, like the Sadguru, is really embodiment of Gyan. The difference between the two lies in the attitude, high realization, and unrivaled capacity and Aishwarya Yoga, divine powers. The Sadguru is Nirgun Satchit Anand. He has indeed taken human form to elevate mankind and raise the world. But his Nirgun nature is not destroyed thereby even a bit. His reality, divine power, and wisdom remain undiminished. The disciple also is, in fact, of the same Swarupa, but it is overlaid by the effect of the samskars of innumerable births in the shape of ignorance, which hides from his view that he is Shuddh Chaitanya. As stated therein, he gets the impressions, I am Jiva, a creature, humble and poor. The Guru has to root out these offshoots of ignorance and has to give Updesh or instruction to the disciple held spellbound for endless generations by the ideas of his being a creature. The Guru imparts the teachings. You are God, you are mighty and opulent. Then he realizes a bit that he is God really. The perpetual delusion under which the disciple is laboring, that he is the body. that he is a creature, jiva, or ego, that God and the world are different from him, is an error inherited from innumerable past births. From actions based on it, he has derived his joy, sorrows, and mixtures of both. To remove this delusion, this error, this root ignorance, he must start the inquiry. How did the ignorance arise? Where is it? And to show him, this is called the Guru's Updesh. The following are the instances of Agyan. 1. I am a jiva. 2. I am the body. 3. God, world, and jiva are different. 4. I am not God. 5. Not knowing that body is not the soul. 6. Not knowing that God, world, and jiva are one. Unless these errors are exposed to his view, the disciple cannot learn what is God, jiva, world, body, how they are interrelated, and whether they are different from each other or are one and the same. To teach him these and destroy his ignorance is this instruction in Gyan or Agyan. Why should Gyan be imparted to the jiva? Updesh is merely to show him his error and destroy his ignorance. Baba added, Pranipat implies surrender. Surrender must be of body, mind, and wealth. Why should Krishna refer Arjun to other Gyanis? Sadbhakta takes everything to be Vasudev. That is, any Guru will be Krishna to the devotee, and Guru takes disciple to be Vasudev, and Krishna treats both as his prana and atma. As Shri Krishna knows that there are such bhaktas and gurus, he refers Arjun to them so that their greatness may increase and be known. Construction of the Samadhi Mandir. Baba never talked, nor ever made any fuss about the things which he wanted to accomplish. But he so skillfully arranged the circumstances and surroundings that the people were surprised at the slow but sure results attained. The construction of the Samadhi Mandir is an instance and point. Shriman Bapusai Bhoti, the famous multimillionaire of Nagpur, lived in Shirdi with his family. Once an idea arose in his mind that he should have a building of his own there. Sometimes after this, while he was sleeping in Dikshit's Vada, he got a vision. Baba appeared in his dream and ordered him to build a Vada of his own with temple. Shama, who was sleeping there, got also a similar vision. When Bapu Sahib was awakened, he saw Shama crying and asked him why he was doing so. The latter replied that in his vision, Baba came close to him and ordered distinctly, Build the Vada with the temple. I shall fulfill the desires of all. Hearing the sweet and loving words of Baba, I was overpowered with emotion. My throat was choked, my eyes were overflowing with tears, and I began to cry. Bapu Sahib was surprised to see that both their visions tallied. Being a rich and capable man, he decided to build a Vada there and drew up a plan with Madhav Rao, that is Shama. Kaka Sahib Dikshit also approved of it, and when it was placed before Baba, he also sanctioned it immediately. Then the construction work was duly started, and under the supervision of Shama, the ground floor, the cellar, and the well were completed. Baba also, on his way to and from Landi, suggested certain improvements. Further work was entrusted to Bapu Sahib Jog, and when it was going on, an idea struck Bapu Sahib Bhuti's mind that there should be an open room or platform, and in the center, the image of Murlidhar, Lord Krishna with the flute, be installed. He asked Shama to refer this matter to Baba and get his consent. The latter asked Baba about this when he was just passing by the Vada. Hearing Shama, Baba gave his consent, saying, After the temple is complete, I will come there to stay. And staring at the Vada, he added, After the Vada is complete, we shall use it ourselves. We shall live, move, and play there, embrace each other, and be very happy. Then Shama asked Baba whether this was the auspicious time to begin the foundation work of central room of the shrine. The latter answered in the affirmative. Then Shama got a coconut broken there and started the work. In due time the work was completed and an order was also given for making a good image of Murlidhar. But before it was ready, a new thing turned up. Baba became seriously ill and was about to pass away. Bapu Sahib became very sad and dejected, thinking that if Baba passed away, his Vada would not be consecrated by the holy touch of Baba's feet and all his money would be wasted away. But the words, "Keep me in the Vada," which came out of Baba's mouth just before his passing away, consoled not only Bapu Sahib but one and all. In due time, Baba's holy body was placed and preserved in the central shrine meant for Murlidhar, and Baba himself became Murlidhar, and the Vada thus became the Samadhi Mandir of Sai Baba. His wonderful life is unfathomable. Blessed and fortunate is Bapu Sahib Bhoti. In those Vada lies the holy and pure body of Baba. Bow to Sri Sai. Peace be to all.